This is the courtyard where little Maddie disappeared here. There's a significant presence of police officers, along with volunteers handing out flyers. Santa Cruz police have begun their first full daylight search, mobilizing the help of sheriff's deputies, along with the FBI, helicopters, canines, boats, and dozens of volunteers to help find this little girl. A surveillance camera captured the last images ever taken of Madyson Middleton, showing her doing what she loved, riding her scooter at 5 p.m. Sunday afternoon.
On the evening of July 26, 2015, at exactly 6:08 p.m., a call came into 911 in Santa Cruz, California. A mother was reporting her daughter missing. The last confirmed sighting had been just over an hour earlier. At 5:07 p.m., 8-year-old Madyson Middleton was seen riding her white scooter past a row of mailboxes inside her apartment complex. After that, there was nothing. No movement, no witnesses, no trace. Within minutes, the Santa Cruz Police Department arrived at the Tannery Arts Center, a residential complex known for its close-knit community of families and artists. At first, it was treated as a missing child case. But something about it felt wrong almost immediately. Residents began searching alongside officers. Neighbors checked apartments, garages, storage areas, and dumpsters. People called out her name. They retraced familiar paths. Because in a place like that, a place where everyone knew each other, a child did not simply disappear. But Madyson was nowhere to be found. As the evening turned into night, the search intensified. Multiple agencies became involved, including Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, Search and Rescue, K-9 units. Later, FBI agents, who joined the investigation the following morning. Despite the scale of the response, one critical decision stood out. An Amber Alert was not issued. According to officials, the case did not meet the required criteria at that time. By the next morning, the situation had escalated. More than 50 FBI agents were on the ground. They went door to door, asking residents to check every possible space. Garages, sheds, vehicles, trash, and recycling areas. The entire complex had already been searched once. Still, nothing. Then, less than 24 hours after Madyson was last seen, investigators returned to a location they had already checked: the recycling bins. On July 27th, around 8:00 p.m., officers opened one of the containers. Inside, they found a bag. And inside that bag was Madyson. At that moment, the case changed. Instantly. This was no longer a missing child investigation. It was now a homicide. Very quickly, investigators focused on a suspect, a teenage boy, 15 years old. He lived in the same complex. Witnesses had seen him during the search, standing nearby, watching. And when officers discovered the body, he ran. He was detained shortly after. During questioning, he began to speak. According to investigators, he admitted that he had approached Madyson earlier that evening. He offered her something simple: ice cream. She followed him into his apartment. Once inside, he attacked her from behind. What happened after that would later become central to the investigation. But even at this stage, the key facts were already clear. The crime occurred inside the same community she lived in. The suspect was someone nearby, not a stranger passing through. And the timeline, from disappearance to discovery, was measured in hours, not days. Before any of that unfolded, Madyson was just a child enjoying her Sunday. Madyson Middleton, known to everyone as Maddie, lived with her mother, Laura Jordan. She was their only child. Her father, Mike Middleton, remained closely involved in her life. Together, they formed a small, tightly connected family. They lived at the Tannery Arts Center, a unique residential space designed for artists and families. It was a place where creativity was part of daily life. Children played freely in shared courtyards. Neighbors knew each other. People looked out for one another. For Maddie, it was the perfect environment. She loved to create. She painted small toy figures and turned them into characters. She built stories around them. She sang, danced, drew, anything that allowed her to express herself. Her mother described her as kind, generous, and emotionally aware. She was the kind of child who noticed when someone felt left out, and she would go sit with them, without being asked. Around the complex, people knew her as talkative Maddie. She could start a conversation with anyone, make friends instantly, bring energy into any room. On Sunday, July 26th, she was spending the afternoon at home. A friend had come over. They were playing a board game with her mother. At some point, Maddie stepped away. She had recently received a new scooter. She wanted to ride it, just for a little while, before it got dark. Around 4 p.m., neighbors saw her outside, riding, stopping occasionally to talk to other kids, moving easily through the space she knew so well. She was comfortable there, safe, or at least, it seemed that way. At 5:07 p.m., she passed the mailboxes, riding her white scooter. That was the last confirmed sighting. When she didn't return, her mother initially assumed she had gone to a friend's apartment. That was normal. The community was open. Children moved freely between homes. But as minutes turned into longer stretches of silence, concern began to grow. Laura Jordan started going door to door. There were around 100 apartments spread across the complex. Each answer was the same. "We haven't seen her." That's when the panic began. Because in a place like that, a place built on familiarity and trust, a child does not just disappear. When investigators opened the recycling bin, everything changed. In that moment, the search ended, and a homicide investigation began. One of the responding officers would later describe the shift simply. There was a pause, a silence, and then everyone understood.
My name's Kirby.
I know, Kirby.
Phil.
Just look there. Okay, what can you tell us about what she was doing out here?
She was riding her brand new scooter. It's a white Razor. She had a black helmet on. She was wearing a purple dress, and she was just happy as could be riding around.
Now, did you check with friends to see if she was with them?
Absolutely. We've searched the entire tannery, door to door. Officers have gone door to door, every loft. We've looked at cameras. We've had search parties all night long.
Is there anyone else? Is there another friend, an adult friend she might have befriended or anything like that?
Not that I can think of at all.
Has she ever done anything
Nothing.
like
Never. She's never left tannery property. She knows where she's can and cannot be here. She was, in the courtyard where she was supposed to be. She came over here, and that was the last we saw of her on surveillance.
So where do you go? I mean, I just got to ask, how difficult is it knowing that you can't really do any? I mean, you're doing what you can, but...
I already fell apart. Now I'm just in survival mode. I can't explain how difficult this is. Nobody should have to go through this.
From that point forward, the focus moved immediately to one question. Who did this? Very quickly, attention turned to someone already present. A teenager, 15 years old. He lived inside the same complex. Because of his age, his identity was not released at first. That is standard legal practice in cases involving minors. But the absence of a name only increased tension inside the community. People were searching for answers, trying to understand how something like this could happen so close to home. Then came a critical moment. Santa Cruz County District Attorney Jeff Roselle made a public statement. He confirmed that investigators had enough evidence to connect the teenager to the crime. And more importantly, he announced that the suspect would be charged as an adult. That decision signaled something clearly. This was not being treated as an accident, not as a misunderstanding, but as a serious, deliberate act of violence. The charges reflected that. Murder, kidnapping, sexual assault. Shortly after, the suspect's identity was released. His name was Adrian Jerry Gonzalez, known as AJ. He had lived at the Tannery Arts Center for years, in the same environment, around the same people. For residents, the news was difficult to process, because this was not a stranger, not someone passing through. This was someone they knew, someone they saw regularly, someone many had trusted. Neighbors described him in similar ways: quiet, polite, friendly. He spent time around younger children, played with them, showed them simple tricks, helped them learn things. To many, he appeared to be a positive presence, an older kid who could be relied on. That perception made the reality harder to accept. In the first days, some people searched for alternative explanations, something less severe, something that could make sense of what had happened. Some believed it might have been an accident, that he panicked, that he tried to hide it. But as more details emerged, that explanation became impossible to maintain. Investigators began building a clearer picture. Witnesses noted his behavior during the search. He had been present, watching, closely, not just observing, but focused, tracking movements, paying attention to where officers were looking. And then, at the moment the body was discovered, he ran. What made that reaction significant was timing. From his position, he could not have clearly seen what officers had found, and yet his response was immediate. That detail raised questions. When officers detained and questioned him, inconsistencies appeared. His statements did not align. His behavior did not match the situation. At that stage, investigators had enough to proceed. Details from the interrogation were not fully released to the public. That limitation was likely due to his age and legal protections. But internally, the direction of the case had already shifted. The following day, a forensic examination was conducted. The findings established the nature of the crime. The victim had been restrained. Her mouth had been covered, preventing her from calling for help. She had been physically assaulted. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. These findings confirmed what investigators already suspected. This was not accidental. It was a deliberate and violent act. During questioning, Adrian Gonzalez provided an account. According to investigators, he admitted that he had approached Madyson earlier that evening. He offered her something simple: ice cream. She knew him. She trusted him. That trust led her into his apartment. Once inside, he attacked her. From there, the sequence of events escalated rapidly. The assault, the restraint, the loss of control. Afterward, he attempted to conceal what had happened. Her body was placed into a bag, and later moved to the recycling area where it was eventually discovered. By the time investigators assembled the full timeline, the key elements were clear. The victim had been targeted within her own community. The suspect was someone familiar, not unknown. The crime occurred within a very short time window, and the concealment attempt happened immediately after. For the community, the realization was profound. This had not come from outside. It had happened from within, and that changed everything. The forensic findings added another critical detail to the case. Experts determined that the final cause of death was positional asphyxia. This means that after the assault, after the initial violence, Madyson may still have been alive. But because of the way her body was placed inside the recycling container, she had no ability to breathe, no ability to move, no way to escape. That conclusion reshaped how investigators understood the final moments of the crime. This was not only an act of violence, it was also an act of containment, and it carried a disturbing implication that the suffering may not have ended immediately. As the investigation progressed, District Attorney Jeff Roselle addressed the public. He made the position of the prosecution clear. The suspect would be held accountable, and the case, in his view, required the most serious legal response available. From the beginning, prosecutors pushed for the case to be handled in adult court. They argued that the severity of the charges, murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, placed it beyond the scope of the juvenile system. A judge initially agreed. The case was transferred to adult court, reflecting the seriousness of the allegations. At the same time, Adrian Gonzalez entered a plea of not guilty, despite earlier statements made during questioning. What followed was not just a criminal case, it became a legal conflict shaped by changing laws. The defense moved to return the case to juvenile court. They based their argument on California Senate Bill 1391, a law that prohibits trying 14 and 15-year-olds as adults, regardless of the crime. They also presented context about Gonzalez's background. They pointed to difficulties at home, struggles in school social isolation. The goal was to argue that his actions should be viewed within a broader developmental and psychological context. But that argument was contested. Prosecutors emphasized that difficult circumstances do not inherently lead to violent crime. They argued that responsibility could not be reduced to background factors. Public reaction was immediate. Many people expressed concern about the legal limitations. A petition gathered thousands of signatures, opposing the application of the new law in this case. The central issue became larger than one trial. It raised a question. How should the justice system respond when the severity of a crime conflicts with the age of the offender? After multiple legal challenges and appeals, the California Supreme Court made the final decision. The case would proceed in juvenile court. That ruling defined the legal path forward, and it significantly changed the potential outcome. Because under the juvenile system, sentencing is limited by age. For many in the community, that outcome was difficult to accept, not because the law was unclear, but because the gap between the two systems was so large. In adult court, Gonzalez faced the possibility of life in prison. In juvenile court, the maximum consequence was significantly reduced. The contrast became one of the most debated aspects of the case. Even the presiding judge acknowledged the limitations. He stated that the decision was governed by law, not discretion. It was not a matter of choice, but of legal framework. He also noted a broader concern, that not all cases involving serious violence could be fully addressed within a system designed primarily for rehabilitation. The tension remained unresolved. In April 2021, nearly 6 years after the crime, the case reached another turning point. Adrian Gonzalez changed his plea. He pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including murder, kidnapping, sexual assault. The plea brought an end to the trial process, but it did not bring closure in the emotional sense. For years, Madyson's family had lived through repeated hearings, revisited the same events, faced the same facts, over and over again. The guilty plea confirmed responsibility, but it could not restore what had been lost. Before sentencing, Gonzalez addressed the court. He acknowledged the harm he had caused and expressed a desire for forgiveness. His words were measured, but for many present, they felt insufficient, because the weight of the case was not something that could be resolved in a statement. Madyson's father, Mike Middleton, spoke publicly about his response. Over time, he made a personal decision. He chose to forgive. Not as a way to justify what had happened, but as a way to protect himself from carrying ongoing anger. He explained it simply. Holding on to that anger would only cause further damage. Forgiveness, for him, was a way to move forward. Madyson's mother, Laura Jordan, described a different reality. The impact of the loss remained constant. She spoke about ongoing trauma, anxiety, depression, not as temporary effects, but as conditions that continued to shape daily life. This reflected another dimension of the case. The outcome in court marked a legal conclusion, but not an emotional one. Even members of the defense acknowledged that the end of proceedings brought a form of relief, not in terms of victory, but in ending a prolonged process that required everyone involved to revisit the same events repeatedly. Because in cases like this, the timeline does not end with the crime. It extends through years of legal proceedings, public attention, and personal impact. And even after the verdict, the consequences remain. In the end, the court reached its limit. Judge John Salazar imposed the maximum sentence allowed under California's juvenile law. There was no flexibility beyond that point. This was not a matter of leniency. It was a matter of legal boundaries. Under the current framework, Adrian Gonzalez's custody is set to end when he turns 25 years old. That date, October 2024, became a defining point in the case. Because no matter how severe the crime, no matter how strong the public response, the law places a hard limit on how long a juvenile offender can be held. There is a legal provision that allows the state to request an extension of custody. But according to District Attorney Jeff Roselle, such an outcome is unlikely. His words were measured, but the message was clear. The system has limits, and in this case, those limits may determine what happens next. After release, Gonzalez will remain under lifetime sex offender registration. His name will stay on record, permanently. The court also ordered $22,000 in restitution, a formal recognition of harm, but not something that could ever balance what was lost. For Madyson's family, the outcome was difficult to accept. Her grandfather spoke openly. He expressed concern not only about this case, but about what it represents. A precedent, a system where, in certain situations, the punishment may not reflect the scale of the crime. And behind the legal arguments, behind the headlines, there were people, living with the consequences. Every day, something unexpected emerged during that time. A connection between two mothers, Laura Jordan, Madyson's mother, and Reggie Gonzalez, the mother of the person responsible. Two lives, permanently changed, from opposite sides of the same event. Reggie returned often to the memorial created for Madyson. She stood there quietly, grieving in a way that had no clear place. And one day, Laura approached her. There were no accusations, no confrontation, only a simple, human moment. She embraced her and told her, "This is not your fault." It was not forgiveness of the crime. It was something else, an acknowledgement that pain, even when it comes from opposite sides, can still be shared. But the family's loss did not end there. At one point, Madyson's father, Mike Middleton, kept her ashes in his car, a way of staying close, of holding on. Then, one day, the car was broken into, and the ashes were taken. They were never recovered. Another loss, without answers. And still, the community responded. The Tannery Arts Center, once defined by safety and familiarity, changed. Not visibly, but permanently. People stayed. They continued to live, to create. But something had shifted. And in that space, they chose to remember her. Near the coastline, a sound sculpture of a wolf was installed in her honor. When the wind passes through it, it produces a low, echoing tone. Not loud, not overwhelming, but present. The Rio Theater displayed her name. Artists created works inspired by her life, and hundreds gathered to celebrate who she was, not only what had happened. Because Madyson Middleton was more than a case. She was a child who loved to create, connected easily with others, brought energy into every space she entered her life, though short, left an impact. The city of Santa Cruz recognized that. Her birthday, October 5th, was officially declared Madyson Middleton Day. Her family also created an organization, Maddie Child Angel of Santa Cruz. Its message is simple, but it carries weight. Before you go, tell someone. It is a reminder that awareness matters, that small decisions matter, that paying attention matters. Because sometimes, the difference between safety and danger is measured in moments. The place where she grew up will never feel exactly the same again. But her presence did not disappear. It remained, in memory, in community, in the changes that followed.
Dan and Aaron, hundreds of mourners were out here by the water tonight in support of Maddie and her family. There's still a few people left out here lighting candles, praying, and just clinging to one another in the wake of this tragedy.
I feel really brokenhearted about what happened to Maddie. It is senseless, and it's so hard to accept.
Heartbroken and shocked, mourners line the water's edge by candlelight, many struggling to find any kind of comfort in the wake of 8-year-old Maddie Middleton's death.
Awful. Just, like you get that sinking feeling in your stomach when something like this happens, and I can't imagine that they're is hardly a person who's not affected by this in some way.
I think we're feeling pretty miserable about it, and, especially because it is a child, defenseless towards this kind of evil.
Laying down flowers by the bay, lighting candles, and saying prayers, people are clinging to one another.
I'm praying for peace, in people's hearts. I'm praying for humanity.
Many can hardly believe it's real and that a tragedy like this could happen in Santa Cruz.
You think that we're living in a civilized society where little girls are safe to live, to play around their apartment building, and it's just really sad.
Memorials popped up all over town in Maddie's name. People brought flowers and candles to the Tannery Arts Center where Maddie was last seen, while businesses showed their support for the little girl and her family. While the community grieves, it's Maddie's family that's at the center of their thoughts and prayers.
I'm so sorry for their loss. I can't imagine what they're going through, but they have the community behind them.
I know that my daughter Madyson is looking out for me, and she's here today with everybody celebrating.
The people who knew and loved Madyson Middleton got together to celebrate her life.
It's been a really scary summer, so we want to give them some fun.
There was face painting, cuddly animals, and the bounce houses. Lots of fun, but the goal here was a kind of collective healing, getting through an incredibly difficult time together, and the kids responded.
Having fun.
And Maddie's personality was in every detail, from the purple cupcakes, one of her favorite desserts, to this painting, sporting her trademark saying, "You better be qualified."
It was just showing her sassiness and her personality and her humor. She said, "You better be qualified as an artist," and I think that also means maybe as a human being, just participating more in your community.
Maddie Middleton's murder touched a nerve in this city, and many are determined she not be forgotten. The mayor declared October 5th, 2015, Madyson Middleton Day in Santa Cruz.
She has captured the hearts of so many people in the community. It was important for the city to honor her that way.
The birthday bash was a part of the grieving and ultimately healing process for family and friends who say Maddie was there in spirit.
We feel that Maddie's probably looking down on us, having a grand old time herself.
Her mother once said, "She was the light and love of my life." And that is how she is remembered. Not only for what happened, but for who she was. A bright, open-hearted child. A life that ended too soon. And a story that continues to matter.